Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 1 hour. The World Economic Forum's report calls India a global growth spot. The Reserve Bank of India projects resilient growth outlook for the coming financial year despite global uncertainties. Romania to expel Russian consul in Constanta and shut down its consulate after Moscow's drone crashes into a Romanian apartment block, injuring 2 people, outraging both the EU and NATO. The wait for US President Trump and Iran leadership sign-off gets longer, even as Vice President J.D. Vance says the 2 sides are very close to a deal. And football icon Lionel Messi is set to lead Argentina at a record 6th FIFA World Cup. US President Donald Trump said on Friday that he was now making a final decision on whether or not to strike a peace deal with Iran. Earlier, the United States and Iran reported progress in efforts to sustain a fragile ceasefire, though differences over Tehran's nuclear program remain unresolved. Iran has indicated that it wants the US to act first by giving assent to their mutual understanding, which could reopen the free flow of vessels through the Strait of Hormuz.
Efforts to sustain the fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran appear to be gaining momentum, with key differences over Iran's nuclear program. US Vice President J.D. Vance said Washington and Tehran have made substantial progress in talks. However, President Donald Trump is not yet ready to approve a final agreement.
We're going back and forth on a couple of language points. I do think that we've made a lot of progress here. It's very clear that I think the Iranians, they want a deal, and they want to open the Straits of Hormuz. We want them to open the Straits of Hormuz.
Vance said key differences remain over Iran's enriched uranium stockpile and its uranium enrichment activities.
There are a couple of issues on the nuclear stuff, the highly enriched stockpile, and also the question of enrichment. So, we're going back and forth with them. We do think they're negotiating, at least so far, in good faith, and we're making some progress.
Meanwhile, Iran's top negotiator, Mohammad Bakir Kalibaf, said that Iran does not trust assurances alone and would judge any agreement by concrete actions, and expects the other side to act first. Earlier on Thursday, United States and Iran agreed on the framework of a memorandum of understanding for a 60-day ceasefire extension. Reports suggest the proposed understanding would reopen the Strait of Hormuz, while discussions on Iran's nuclear program will continue separately. Military tensions, however, remain evident. The US military said it intercepted 5 Iranian drones and struck a launch control station in Bandar Abbas. Kuwait also intercepted a ballistic missile. The United States has also warned Oman against supporting any plan to impose transit tolls in the Strait of Hormuz.
I think the president wanted to punctuate freedom of navigation in the strait. I had a call with the Omani ambassador this morning, and he assured me that there were no plans for tolling the strait. As he said, our countries have had 200 years of good relations. He wants to have another 200 more. And I told him that this was a non-starter, and he did not want to risk either the Omani individuals or Omani financial institutions getting sanctioned.
While the extension of the ceasefire and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz mark positive steps towards de-escalation, deep differences over Iran's nuclear activities continue to pose a challenge. Nishoy Roy reports for DD India.
And for more on the situation, let's go across to DD India's Vinod Kumar joining us from Dubai. Good evening to you, Vinod. Now, is there a sense of suspended animation in the region over the Memorandum of Understanding framework? Because Donald Trump has just now said that he's going to take a final call going into the Situation Room and has also repeated a lot of the conditions that America wants to impose in Iran, and there's no guarantee or no indication that Iran would accept these.
Good evening, Gautam. Well, suspended animation is actually an incredibly precise way to describe this current situation here. West Asia is essentially holding its breath, high stakes limbo between the draft 60-day memorandum of understanding framework and the final formal sign-off that is needed to essentially to solidify it. And that sign-off should come from none other than from Donald Trump, who just made this post in his Truth Social platform. Reports from Qatari mediators indicate that the negotiations have hammered out a workable draft framework to extend the ceasefire to open the lines for a permanent accord. The actual green light is still in this limbo, suspended animation. Trump's latest post has intensified this atmospheric freeze. He has signaled a mix of maximum leverage and a willingness to walk, saying that the deal is either great and meaningful or there will not be any deal at all. And letting known that he has instructed negotiators not to rush because time is on our side. He has also mentioned in his Truth Social post that only United States and China have the capacity to dig out the nuclear dust that is under the nuclear sites that has been destroyed last year. So for the first time, he has agreed that there is nuclear dust over there, and all this time he has been maintaining that the uranium has been destroyed by the B-2 bombers last year. But now he is firm that that material has to be shifted to somewhere else and has to be destroyed. But there is a mistake in that. This is uranium we are speaking about, enriched uranium that can only be shifted out of that place and it cannot be destroyed. So punctuating that particular line and saying the dots which will come through, we have to make a clear arrangement of how this nuclear material will be handled.
Well, it could be used, utilized in for other purposes other than making weapons.
Again, it has to be
Processed.
in particular processed and enriched to a particular level. For
Yes.
this 60% level, it can be used in the uranium nuclear reactors for producing energy. And if
And the only way, ironically, the only way to destroy it is to explode it in a bomb.
Either we can do that, that is the one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum, we can use it for radioactive plutonium generators to be used by NASA or SpaceX to create energy for space weapons, not space weapons, space energy projects, which the Pioneer or the Voyager that has been used to radioactive plutonium, or we can use it in nuclear reactors to produce energy. The main aspect here is it has to be safely guarded and to be kept safely at some place. And I really doubt that whether Iran will allow their nuclear facilities to be inspected by IAEA, China or the United States and take out of that nuclear material. This is one of the key aspects of the suspended animation. And meanwhile, while all these things happen, Tehran has downplayed claims that the text is finalized. They say that no official notification has been handed to intermediaries. Now Qatar is acting as an intermediate. Hardline henners in the Supreme National Council are digging in there, publicly saying that unconditional and full release of frozen assets before anything is made official. When they mean frozen assets, initially it is $12 billion and it can go as high as $123 billion. Now we have to see whether US will be in a position to agree to transfer that amount of money. But Iran has been insisting that these particular funds will be used only for humanitarian aspects. There is why this mediation comes to a bigger role. Qatar, we know that Qatar is the mediator here. Now talks are happening in Doha. They are using to and fro diplomacy. And they have a good background and a goodwill that they can use these escrow accounts like they have used in the previous prisoner swap exchange to exchange this Iranian nuclear material for unfreezing their assets. The main aspects to understand here is that the diplomatic gridlock means the highly anticipated structural roadblocks are frozen midair. What do you mean by structural roadblocks? This core of the MOU carefully sequenced on a good pro-co statement that says there are several commitments on both sides. One is opening the Strait of Hormuz, defreezing of the assets, unrestricted commercial pass through the Strait of Hormuz, and long-term enrichment suspension. And one more aspect that is actually very important, the Abraham Accords complication by Donald Trump. Trump's recent public post mandated that regional heavyweights like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Pakistan and Iran itself should join a broader settlement like the Abraham Accords, which were signed in 2020, which normalized relations with Israel by Morocco, UAE and Bahrain. So this is another aspect of this broader framework. not necessary for this.
I don't think it's part of the framework yet, but we'll have to wait and see how things evolve. First of all, one has to see what kind of sanctity will this framework have if it's not agreed to between the two major principals, on Donald Trump on one side and Mujtaba Khamenei on the other side, and we don't know the current status of the Iranian Supreme Leader. Let's just leave it there for the moment. Vinod, thanks a lot for joining us from Dubai. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israeli forces have crossed Lebanon's Litani River and advanced further into Lebanese territory. Speaking during a visit to Division 36 on Israel's northern border, Netanyahu said Israeli troops are also operating in Beirut and in the Bekaa Valley. He said that the operations are part of Israel's ongoing actions against the Hezbollah across the Lebanese front. And Netanyahu isn't done with just Lebanon. He's also said that he has directed the Israeli military to expand its control of the Gaza Strip to 70%. Speaking at a conference in a settlement in the occupied West Bank, Netanyahu said additional areas of Gaza would be brought under Israeli control. Israel already effectively controls around 64% of the territory following military operations launched after the 7th of October attacks in 2023. The US brokered truce reached in October has so far failed to halt Israeli attacks or secure the disarmament of the Hamas.
We are currently squeezing Hamas. We now control 60% of the territory of the Strip. We know this. We are at 50. We moved to 60. My directive is to move to, let's go step by step. First of all, 70. Let's start with that. We are pressing them from all sides. We will deal with the remnants.
And we'll return to the West Asia Theatre of Conflict a little later in the show with the special guests and expert guests, but we're moving on for the time being. Tensions between Russia and NATO have sharply escalated after a Russian drone struck a residential building in Romania. The attack injured 2 people and triggered strong condemnation from NATO and the European Union. Romania has summoned the Russian ambassador and scrambled fighter jets following the airspace breach. And NATO has warned that it stands ready to defend every inch of Allied territory.
The Russia-Ukraine conflict saw a fresh escalation on Friday after a Russian drone crashed into a residential building in Romania's border city of Galați, injuring 2 people and raising fears of the war spilling beyond Ukraine. The drone breached Romanian airspace during overnight Russian strikes on Ukraine before hitting the apartment building and sparking a fire. A 14-year-old boy and a 53-year-old woman were injured in the attack. Romanian authorities say it was the first time since the war began in 2022 that a residential building in Romania had been directly hit. Romania scrambled F-16 fighter jets after detecting the drone and summoned the Russian ambassador following the incident. President Nicolae Dan called it the most serious violation of Romanian territory since the start of the war and announced the expulsion of Russia's Consul General in Constanta.
We had a serious incident last night in which 2 Romanian citizens were injured, and the entire responsibility for this incident lies with Russia, a country that has been waging a war of aggression against Ukraine for more than 4 years. In view of this situation, the Consul General of the Russian Federation in Constanta has been declared persona non grata, and the Consulate General of the Russian Federation in Constanta will close.
France has also summoned the Russian ambassador following a spate of Russian strikes. Meanwhile, Russia said it is preparing a response to Romania's decision to expel its diplomat. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova dismissed Western reactions to the drone crash as fuss. NATO and the European Union strongly condemned the drone incident. NATO chief Mark Rutte described Russia's actions as reckless behavior and said the alliance would defend every inch of NATO territory. EU chief Ursula von der Leyen said Russia's war had crossed yet another line. Germany, France, Britain and the US also criticized the drone incursion, expressing solidarity with Romania. Meanwhile, Russia said one person was killed in a Ukrainian drone strike on a chemical factory in the Volgograd region as both sides intensified cross-border drone attacks. The latest drone incident has further heightened tensions in the region, with NATO allies warning against repeated violations of their airspace amid the ongoing war in Ukraine. Bureau Report, DD India.
Discussions are currently taking place in Russia on ensuring information, economic, food and environmental security in the new multipolar world. The forum is being attended by around 5,000 participants from the BRICS and SCO countries, ASEAN and most countries in Latin America, Africa and West Asia. How do experts propose to tackle global challenges? Take a look at this report.
Russian, English, Chinese, Farsi. Over 120 languages are spoken on the sidelines of the International Security Forum. Around 5,000 participants, delegations from the BRICS, SCO, ASEAN and most countries in Latin America, Africa and the Middle East are discussing global challenges in Russia. One of the most important topics is information security. According to analysts' estimates, the annual cost of cybercrime worldwide runs into the trillions of dollars.
It is very difficult, in fact impossible, as been highlighted many times, for one nation to provide security on ICT on its own. We need to cooperate, as players can, especially criminal players, can be in many different geographical locations.
We need to develop a single set of rules that would regulate the actions of states and their companies in the digital sphere. Obviously, the voluntary codes of conduct adopted by the United Nations over the past decade are no longer sufficient. Clear, legally binding norms are needed.
Work is underway in this direction. At Russia's initiative, the UN General Assembly has drafted the Convention on Cybercrime. This is the first universal treaty in the field of international information security. Bilateral talks are taking place in parallel with the business program. Russia is ready to step up cooperation on security issues with South Africa, emphasized Sergei Shoigu, secretary of the relevant council, in a conversation with Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, Minister of Presidency of the Republic. A trusting dialogue has been established between the heads of state, it was stated at the meeting. In total, the Russian Security Council will hold around 40 meetings.
This bilateral meeting is very important for us, as it is a logical continuation of the talks that took place in February this year, when the president of Madagascar visited Moscow and met with the Russian leader. It is logical that we are meeting today to delve deeper into discussions on our bilateral relations, including in the fields of education and agriculture.
The exhibition also suggests topics for dialogue. On display are the pride of Russia, traditional crafts and achievements in the rocket and space industry. The 14th international meeting of high-level representatives responsible for security issues was the central event of the forum. The main item on the agenda was how to maintain stability amidst the formation of a new global architecture.
To strengthen coordination among the countries of the Global South and East, the following is important: to strengthen the central coordinating role of the United Nations in every way, to support the group of friends in defense of the Charter of the United Nations established on Russia's initiative, and to avoid provoking contradictions, disagreements and confrontations in relations between the states of the Global South and East.
The program comprises over 20 events, briefings, roundtables, conferences and presentations. Their outcomes will form the basis for joint initiatives and decisions. The TV BRICS International Media Network served as the forum's international information partner.
Former U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi arrived on Capitol Hill on Friday to testify before a House committee investigating convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The hearing marks a fresh chapter in Epstein's network and the handling of key investigative records. Bondi has faced mounting criticism from Trump allies and Republican lawmakers over allegations that records tied to the Epstein investigation were mishandled or withheld. House Committee Chairperson James Comer said lawmakers are trying to connect the dots as the inquiry pushes for accountability and justice for Epstein survivors. Myanmar President U Min Aung Hlaing will pay an official visit to India starting the 30th of May to the 3rd of June at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This will be the first visit of President U Min Aung Hlaing to India in his current capacity. During his visit to New Delhi, President Hlaing will be holding discussions with Prime Minister Modi on the 1st of June on further strengthening the historical and civilizational ties between the two sides. He'll also participate in a business forum meeting. As part of the visit, President Hlaing will also travel to Bodh Gaya on the 30th of May and to Mumbai for business and industry interactions and site visits. Myanmar lies at the confluence of India's Neighbourhood First, Act East and Mahasagar policies. The official visit of President Hlaing to India is expected to further strengthen and deepen the multifaceted relations between the two sides. While much of the world continues to battle economic uncertainty, India is powering ahead with confidence. Strong domestic demand, easing inflation, a resilient banking sector and growing global investor interest are reinforcing India's position as the world's fastest growing major economy. The latest assessment from the Reserve Bank of India, coupled with positive global projections, signal that India's growth story remains firmly on track.
As global economies grapple with conflict, inflation and slowing growth, India continues to stand out as a pillar of resilience. Backed by strong domestic demand, a robust banking system and stable macroeconomic fundamentals, the country remains the world's fastest growing major economy. India's economic momentum remains firmly on track despite growing global uncertainties. The Reserve Bank of India in its annual report has projected a resilient outlook for FY27, citing strong domestic consumption, sustained investments, healthy financial institutions and sound macroeconomic fundamentals. While external risks persist, India's strong internal demand and policy support continue to power growth. As per RBI's report, headline inflation eased sharply to 2.1% in FY26 from 4.6% a year earlier. Monetary Policy Committee reduced the repo rate by 100 basis points during the year. RBI infused liquidity through open market operations and CRR cuts to support growth and ensure smooth transmission of monetary policy. A prolonged conflict in West Asia could lead to higher crude oil prices, increased logistics costs, and renewed inflationary pressures. India's relatively lower dependence on exports and strong domestic demand should help cushion the economy against external shocks. RBI also struck an optimistic note on the health of India's banking sector. The positive assessment comes at a time when many advanced economies continue to face sluggish growth and recessionary pressures. According to the World Economic Forum's chief economist Outlook 2026, India remains among the few economies with a positive growth outlook. Growth projected at around 6.5% in 2026-27. Strong domestic demand continues to drive expansion. Young population and digital transformation powering growth. Services sector remains a major economic strength. Global companies increasing investments in manufacturing footprint. India emerging as a top priority market for global businesses. Stable policies creating opportunities in jobs, exports and manufacturing. AI startups and digital innovation accelerating future growth. With easing inflation, a resilient banking system and growing global confidence, India continues to strengthen its position as a leading engine of global growth. Even amid an uncertain international environment, the country's economic fundamentals remain firmly aligned for sustained expansion and long-term opportunity. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now let's turn the clock back a bit and talk about the last 12 years where India's economy transitioned from the fragile 5 into the world's 4th largest global economy, all under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Well, over the past 12 years, India's agriculture sector underwent a profound transformation, rooted in the philosophy of Beej se Bazaar Tak. This transformation champions inclusivity, supporting small farmers, women-led groups and allied sector. Here's a report that lists the number of initiatives launched by Prime Minister Modi-led government to enhance, upgrade and support the agricultural sector with a special focus on India's farmers.
Agriculture is at the heart of India's economy and culture, and farmers are the backbone of the sector. Keeping in view the rich identity of India, the past 12 years, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has witnessed a profound transformation rooted in the philosophy of Beej se Bazaar Tak, from seeds to the market. An array of initiatives have been taken to benefit and transform the agriculture sector. Let's begin with the financial benefits. Enhanced budget allocation. The Union Budget 2026-27 allocated 1,40,529 crore rupees to the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, representing a 5.4% increase from previous year's revised estimates. Increase in MSP and support to farmers. In recently held cabinet meeting, the Government of India increased the MSP of Kharif crops for marketing season 2026-27 to ensure remunerative prices to the growers for their produce. Financial security for the farmers. Prime Minister Kisan Samman Nidhi, a central sector scheme launched in February 2019 that aims to supplement the financial needs of land-holding farmers. Kisan Credit Card. The Kisan Credit Card scheme ensures hassle-free and affordable credit to the farmers for short and long-term cultivation, post-harvest expenses and consumption needs. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Launched in 2016, it aims to provide a simple, affordable and comprehensive crop insurance product to the Indian farmers. Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, launched during the year 2015-2016, it aims to enhance physical access of water on farm and expand cultivable area under assured irrigation, improved on-farm water use efficiency, introduce sustainable water conservation practices, etc. Soil Health Cards. Soil Health Card provides information to the farmers on nutrient status of their soil, along with recommendation on appropriate dosage of nutrients to be applied for improving soil health and its fertility. Modern Infrastructure for Agriculture. Launched in 2020-2021, Agriculture Infrastructure Fund is a key initiative aimed at bridging critical gaps in post-harvest management by supporting development of farm gate, storage, logistics and processing the infrastructure. PM Kisan Samriddhi Kendras. These Kendras serve as one-stop centers providing seeds, fertilizers, tools and timely information on farming and government schemes, making agriculture more convenient and informed for the farmers. E-NAM and market reforms. It is a pan-India electronic trading portal that networks the existing Agriculture Produce Market Committee to create a unified national market for agricultural commodities. Mega Food Parks. The Mega Food Park scheme links agricultural production to the markets by connecting farmers, processors and retailers. Namo Drone Didi. Namo Drone Didi is a central sector scheme aiming to empower women-led self-help groups by equipping them with drone technology to provide agricultural services. AgriSure. AgriSure provides equity and debt funding to ventures working on solutions such as FPU support, rental farm machinery and IT-based agri-tech. Food processing sector. By creating robust farm-to-market linkages, reducing post-harvest losses and expanding value addition through modern processing infrastructure, the sector has increased the profitability of agricultural produce. Blue Revolution. India's union budget allocates a record of 2,761.8 crore rupees to the fisheries sector. The Pradhan Matsya Sampada Yojana continues to anchor this funding with highest ever scheme-based allocation of 2,500 crore rupees. Dairy sector. India ranks first in the world in milk production, contributing 25% of global output. Milk production in the country has increased by 63.56% over the last 10 years. Ethanol procurement. The Government of India is implementing the ethanol blended petrol program to promote the use of alternatives, eco-friendly fuels and reduce dependency on imported crude oil. Solar panels on barren land. The Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Utthan Mahabhiyan or PM Kusum aims to reduce diesel use in agriculture and boost farmers' income. National Mission on Natural Farming. The mission aims to promote chemical-free farming among 1 crore farmers and establish 10,000 bio-input resource centers with a financial outlay of 2,184 crore rupees. Shri Anna or millets, recognizing the nutritional and environmental value of this ancient grain, United Nations declared 2023 as the International Year of Millets. Prime Minister Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. The program aims to benefit 1.7 crore farmers by enhancing agricultural productivity, improving irrigation infrastructure, and facilitating access to both short-term and long-term credit. As India enters Amrit Kal, its empowered farmers stand ready to lead the nation from food security to global food leadership, ensuring India not only becomes self-reliant but soon becomes a developed nation by the year 2047. Deepika's report for DD India.
And still to come on DD India Newshour. We'll be speaking with an expert guest about the latest developments related to the US-Iran deal, which is nearly done, but not quite. This man is making a final determination.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. And before we go any further, another look at our top stories. The World Economic Forum's report calls India a global growth spot. The Reserve Bank of India projects resilient growth outlook for the coming financial year despite global uncertainties. Romania to expel Russian consul in Constanta and shut down its consulate after Moscow's drone crashes into a Romanian apartment block, injuring 2 people and outraging both EU and NATO. The wait for US President Trump and Iran leadership sign-off gets longer even as Vice President J.D. Vance says the two sides are very close to a deal. Trump says he's making a final determination in the Situation Room now. All right, we're taking you back to our top story, which is all about the West Asia conflict, or the suspended animation that the region is finding itself in, along with the entire world, as to what will be the fate of this framework, the Memorandum of Understanding framework that's being talked about between the US and Iran, even as Donald Trump has said that he's making a final determination in the Situation Room right now as we speak, and he's talked about a lot of things in a very lengthy Truth Social post, and I hope my guest has also had a look at it. We're joined by Ambassador Anil Wada, former senior diplomat. Good evening to you. Ambassador, just tell me, what do you make of what Donald Trump has said? His latest wish list, really, if we can call it that, on Truth Social, and the likely Iranian response to it. We've already heard a bit from the Iranian foreign minister when some details have come out of his exchange with his Qatari counterpart.
Yes, so I think all these issues have been talked about by President Donald Trump earlier in Truth Social and elsewhere. Most importantly, he's reiterated the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. The question about the Straits of Hormuz being open and nobody controlling the straits has been talked about earlier. But a new element that I see in the latest post is, of course, the fact that Iran will clear the mines and will do so on their own, because there's no mention here of US or any other country doing so.
Does Iran even have the equipment, the necessary wherewithal? I mean, Trump himself claims that they have zero navy left. So how will they clear the mines?
Yes, of course, that's a moot point here, because the swing has been quite dramatic in terms of him saying that the United States will clear the Straits of Hormuz of mines. But of course, now he's talking about Iran doing so. And you raise the right question about how are they going to do that if they don't have the wherewithal to do it. Finally, it's a question of the nuclear dust, as he calls it, the degraded nuclear material. And this time, interestingly, he's talking about United States and China being the two countries with the ability to be able to clear that, take out the debris, and then take it away from Iran. So that's a new element which has been injected as well into the latest post. And now it remains to be seen how the Iranians react to it. But I think the contours of all these 4 points have been discussed for a while now. There are nuances which will have to be ironed out if the deal goes through, if a framework is agreed upon over the following weeks. And that could take at least a month to more than 8 or 9 weeks to actually come to sort of a fleshing out of this framework. So it's not going to be easy going forward, even though we might have an extension of the truce in the immediate future.
Well, let's further go into this new element that you have found in this Truth Social post about clearing the mines. Well, Iran has been indicating for a long time that it will take some service charges for, in a way, letting these vessels pass through a designated route. So it seems that they're aware of where the mines are, and that's what Donald Trump might also be talking about. I doubt he's talking about Iran using some of its old oil tankers, sort of developing them as unmanned suicide vessels which will go through this minefield, and if they come across a mine, they just explode and clear the way.
Yes, that's not what he means, of course. But I do think that through this post, what Donald Trump is actually saying is that the Iranians know where they put the mines, and therefore they are the ones who should be clearing them. Of course, if they don't have the wherewithal, they'll not be able to do that. So it will require some cooperative effort in future to do that.
And he's also said no money will exchange hands until further notice. That is also pretty nebulous.
Yes, no money will exchange hands in the sense that
until further notice. That means at some stage it will.
Well, we'll have to see how it goes, but I think the intention is quite clear, because no one in the region and no one who's a energy importer would like to have anyone charging toll for opening up the Straits of Hormuz, and that's what seems to have weighed in on the decision to put that into this post in particular. So we'll have to see how Iran actually reacts to that, because their stance was that the toll was being collected so that the damage which has been done in Iran by the bombing by the United States could be that could be undone, and that reconstruction could take place with that money.
And another thing that I find strange is he's saying that I'll be making a final determination now in the Situation Room. Normally, presidents head into Situation Rooms when some offensive action is being taken. Why does he have to go into a Situation Room to decide whether he should have peace with Iran?
Well, this has been a trend in lately. We've seen in Donald Trump's thinking that even though he might see things in a different way, he still wants to consult with the others who might brief him on aspects that he might have missed out, and therefore he is constantly nowadays in the Situation Room. If you recall, when he missed his son's wedding, in fact, he said that it was because of the fact that he had to be briefed at regular intervals, and the Situation Room becomes important in that context. So, there is obviously a style of working here which has evolved in this current administration, where he's briefed beforehand, but still wants to be reassured that he's not missed out any of the points.
Okay, we have some 2 quick reactions coming in through Iranian sources telling Fast News Agency. First, that the deal doesn't include reopening Hormuz toll-free. And second, that Iran has not agreed to destroying nuclear materials. And we heard, or we read, in fact, about the kind of conversation that the Iranian foreign minister had with his Qatari counterpart as well, where he says that the US is not really consistent, and we are not sure if this is the way that a deal can be done.
Yeah, so I think that's happened many times now. If you recall, over the past weeks, we've seen Trump announcing something which is actually then denied by the Iranians, or at least there's been a rethink or a going back on something which was said earlier. So many of these issues, actually, the wishful thinking comes out in terms of posts on Truth Social, whereas they've not
I
actually
beg
been
your pardon.
agreed upon.
Abbas Araghchi had a talk with his Omani counterpart, not Qatari. I'm sorry.
Yes, I think Oman is consulting quite
Yes.
closely with Iran in this respect, and that's what has led also in 2 days ago to that remark on President Donald Trump saying that there would be no toll which will be charged, and if Oman does that, they'll be blown up, and that's actually had a very adverse reaction, not only in Oman but also in the region.
In fact, Abbas Araghchi, the operative part of what he's told his Omani counterpart was that the talks that have happened indicate that arriving at a final agreement depend entirely on ending the American party's attitude based on excessive demands and shifting and contradictory positions. At the same time, we have another piece of information coming in on Iranian sources telling Fast News Agency that Trump's comments on Truth Social and about the deal are a mixture of truth and lies.
Yes, so as I said, that there is also an element of wishful thinking always in what is posted on Truth Social, and the idea is that if you say something a number of times, even though it may not have been agreed upon before, that it could reach a fruition because it could be then a thought which could be planted in the other side's mind space, and hopefully that they might work towards that. So that is the kind of wishful thinking which is going on. And I definitely feel that with this kind of reaction, we are not there as yet. It's going to take a while.
Yes, it does look like it will take a while. At least now he's not talked about getting all the Gulf nations onto the Abraham Accords bandwagon as he wanted earlier. We don't know if that is still the refrain when it comes to actually ensuring that there is lasting peace in the region. It should be in the long run, but perhaps not at a time when things are so hostile as far as all these Gulf nations are concerned towards Israel, because of what's been happening in both Gaza and in Lebanon. Thanks for joining us for the moment, Pastor Wadhwa.
Thank you.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the country as well. The Supreme Court on Friday invoked Article 142 and directed high courts across the country to deliver reserved judgments within 3 months to curb delays in justice delivery. The Supreme Court also ordered same-day or next-day bail orders and immediate release of under-trial prisoners after bail formalities, along with 24-hour uploading of judgments online. Admirers, writers and artists gathered in Dehradun for the first ever Ruskin Bond Literature Festival, celebrating the timeless legacy of Ruskin Bond through poetry, music and storytelling. The event also featured emotional tributes from Bond's family and a showcase of his best-selling works, as organizers announced plans for an expanded edition next year. A retired Indo-Tibetan border police trooper from Jammu and Kashmir's Riyasi district is doing his bit to help birds survive the scorching summer heat by placing water-filled bowls and pots across public spaces and tree tops. The retired Jawan said small individual efforts like saving water, planting saplings and keeping water for birds can play a big role in protecting the nature and environment. The famous Jardalu mango from Bhagalpur in Bihar is back in season, filling markets with its distinct aroma and sweetness. Farmers say that despite weather challenges and a powdery mildew infection, this year's surviving crop is of far better size and high quality, boosting hopes for strong demand. And still to come on DD India Newshour. The Indian Met Department says the evolving El Nino conditions could weaken rainfall activity during the crucial June to September period. India's Chandrayaan-2 discovers possible ice buried in Moon's south pole.
India is home to some of the most venomous snakes in the world. 50,000 Indians almost die every year because of snake bites. And in that moment, knowing what to do can really help save a life.
Students know, they know climate change, they know global warming, they know plastics, they know microplastics. They really know what it means on a daily basis. So the connect with the environment is missing. The connect to real life every day is missing.
A eucalypt in a new environment, you're very likely to change what we call fire regimes. So fire regimes are the patterns of fire across the landscape and through time.
We add the already colonized mycelium into this sort of jute bags, and we take it to the forest for the process of which is called mycoremediation, where we are introducing more mycelium in a certain ecosystem for basically helping the ecosystem to thrive more, and also for the mycelium to grow in the same process.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I am Gautam Roy. The World Health Organization has confirmed the first recovery from Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo. WHO and Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention are working to speed up vaccine and treatment. They've urged more international funding to contain the evolving situation. Nitesh Kumar reports.
The World Health Organization has confirmed the first recovery of an Ebola patient in the latest outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Officials said the recovered patient has been discharged from hospital and returned safely to the community. Meanwhile, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus arrived in Kinshasa to coordinate response efforts, warning that conflict and displacement are making containment operations extremely difficult. Tedros called the outbreak very complex and appealed for a ceasefire in conflicted areas, while also urging the international community to step up funding support, as only a fraction of the required resources has been received so far.
There are many challenges, especially in containing this outbreak. It's a very complex outbreak. One is the conflict, the security challenges, and that's why in my letter today I asked for a ceasefire, giving a message to the warring parties. And the other problem is displacement. People are displaced because of conflict. The kind of support we're asking, the amount of support we're asking is still not received.
The World Health Organization says there are now 906 suspected Ebola cases in Congo, including 223 suspected deaths under investigation. Neighboring Uganda has also reported a rise in confirmed Ebola infections, raising concerns over possible cross-border transmission. While WHO has advised against international travel bans, several countries have tightened border checks and precautionary restrictions on travelers arriving from affected African regions. In eastern Congo, Ebola-related border restrictions and transport disruptions are worsening economic hardship in key trading hubs like Goma and Bukavu, where businesses depend heavily on cross-border trade with Rwanda. The United Nations has expanded relief operations in eastern Congo, delivering medical aid, protective equipment, food, and clean drinking water to affected communities. India has also stepped up medical supplies to the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, reaffirming support for the ongoing public health response.
We have sent medical supplies to CDC Africa. This was handed over by our High Commissioner in Uganda to CDC office there. We look forward to further helping in whatever manner we can.
The Ebola outbreak is worsening an already fragile humanitarian crisis driven by conflict, hunger, and displacement. Nitesh Kumar reports for DD India.
India's lunar ambitions have scored another scientific milestone. Scientists analyzing data from India's second moon mission, Indian Space Research Organization's Chandrayaan-2, have identified strong evidence suggesting the presence of subsurface water ice beneath craters near the moon's south pole, one of the coldest and most mysterious regions in the solar system. The discovery was made using the dual-frequency synthetic aperture radar on board the Chandrayaan-2 orbiter. Water on the moon is considered a critical resource for long-duration human missions. It can potentially be converted into drinking water, breathable oxygen, and even rocket fuel through chemical processing. Scientists say locating accessible lunar ice deposits is essential for future in situ resource utilization, a strategy aimed at reducing dependence on supplies carried from the Earth. India's southwest monsoon may fall short this year. The Indian Met Department has forecast below normal rainfall for the 2026 monsoon season, raising concerns over farming output, water availability and heat stress across several regions. The IMD has also warned that evolving El Niño conditions could weaken rainfall activity during the crucial June to September period.
India may be headed for a weaker than usual monsoon this year, with the India Meteorological Department forecasting below average rainfall for the first time in 3 years. In its updated long-range forecast, the IMD said southwest monsoon rainfall during the June to September season is likely to remain at 90% of the long-period average, placing it in the below normal category. According to the Weather Department, there is an 84% probability that the country could witness below normal or deficient rainfall during the 2026 monsoon season.
The average rainfall for the country as a whole for during the month of June 2026 is most likely to be below normal. It is less than 92%. And also June 26 above the temperature also, it is most of places is maximum temperature expected most of the places, and except some parts of central and northwest East India, the temperature will be maximum. That means more than normal.
The forecast suggests that major parts of central India, northwest India, south peninsular India, and the monsoon core zone, India's key rain-fed agricultural belt, are likely to face rainfall deficits. The IMD also expects June rainfall to remain below normal across most regions of the country. However, parts of northeast India, sections of northwest India, eastern parts of the South Peninsula, and isolated pockets of east and east central India may still receive normal to above normal rainfall. Meanwhile, rainfall activity is expected to intensify over Kerala till the 3rd of June. The IMD has cautioned that weaker monsoon rainfall could increase pressure on agriculture, drinking water supplies, and hydropower generation, while also raising the risk of drought and heat stress. Weather experts say evolving El Niño conditions over the equatorial Pacific are likely to strengthen during the monsoon season, a climate pattern typically associated with weaker monsoon rainfall over India. Bureau Report, DD India.
Union Minister of State for Science and Technology Dr. Jitendra Singh on Friday inaugurated India's first Skycast aviation weather monitoring system at Indira Gandhi International Airport, marking the beginning of a new era of weather-smart and fog-free aviation in the country. With this, India has become the 19th country in the world to deploy such an advanced integrated atmospheric remote sensing system. Singh said the Skycast system will provide real-time weather intelligence to pilots and aviation operators, helping reduce flight delays, diversions and cancellations caused by fog, turbulence and poor visibility. Developed under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Mission Mausam, the system combines advanced technologies such as radar wind profiler, SODA, microwave radiometer, ground-based fog aerosol spectrometer and LiDAR-based cielometer for accurate weather forecasting and monitoring. Let's now get you some sports as well. India had a superb day at the ISSF World Cup in Munich as Suruchi Inder Singh won gold and Isha Singh took silver in the women's 10-meter air pistol event. Suruchi scored 242.1 to successfully defend the title she won last year, while Isha finished close behind with 241.2. Korea's Chu Geun won bronze. With this performance, India moved to the top of the medals tally with 2 golds and 1 silver medal. Earlier, both Indian shooters narrowly qualified for the final with identical scores of 578. In the final, Isha started strongly with Suruchi taking time to settle, but as the competition progressed, Suruchi found her rhythm and steadily climbed up the rankings. In the closing rounds, both Indians shot brilliantly under pressure, overtaking Chu and sealing a memorable gold-silver finish for India. And India struck 2 field goals to defeat host Australia in the third game to take a 2-1 lead in the 4-match women's friendly hockey series in Perth on Friday. The two sides displayed a disciplined defensive display as the first 2 quarters went goalless. India eventually found the breakthrough in the third quarter when Sonam scored to put the visitors ahead in the 36th minute. It continued its momentum in the final quarter when Lal Remsiami doubled the lead. The fourth and final match of the series will be played on Saturday at the same venue. Argentina named their 26-member squad for the World Cup, with Lionel Messi set to lead the defending champions at the tournament in the United States, Mexico and Canada. The 38-year-old forward will play his 6th World Cup, extending the national record. Coach Lionel Scaloni retained the core of the side that won Argentina's 3rd world title in 2022. Midfielder Giovanni Lo Celso, who missed the 2022 World Cup due to injury, returns for his 2nd finals. Argentina has also included several younger players expected to lead the team's next generation, including Valentin Barco, Nicolas Paz and Giuliano Simeone. Argentina will open their campaign against Algeria on the 16th of June before facing Jordan and Austria. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.